Was the gentle giant. For 2 decades, Jean Beliveau graced the ice of the Montreal Forum. He was one of hockey's greatest players, and when he left the game, he became one of its best-known ambassadors. Now Beliveau has written his story called Jean Beliveau, My Life in Hockey.
If you had your choice of any hockey player playing hockey today, professional or amateur, who would you want me to buy for your club? And I only named one man, and that man is right here, John Beliveau.
Beliveau was the most sought-after rookie in NHL history when he signed with the Montreal Canadiens in 1953. He played alongside some of the great hockey legends, Maurice "Rocket" Richard and Jacques Plante, to name just two. On the ice, his style earned him more than 500 goals. Off the ice, he was also a class act, getting the Order of Canada in 1971 and traveling the world to promote hockey.
And with us now from where else, the Montreal Forum, is Jean Beliveau. Mr. Beliveau, this is quite a thrill for me. I was one of those kids in the 60s who had one of your jerseys on for most of my life. I'd like to begin where your book ends, which is on a trip that you took with your parents to Europe in 1971. And the last line of your book says, "Thank you, Papa. I hope that my best was enough." How much of what you accomplished in your life, do you think, was a result of trying to make your dad proud?
Well, I had a good start. If you go at the start of the book, you will see there's a place where matter of fact, there's almost a chapter where my father played a very important role, was a great influence on me, and he gave me a few tips there, like if you want something, work hard and earn it. Don't accept too many freebies because there's always something behind it. And this was a very early age. And when I left Victoriaville to go to Quebec City, we shook hands. I'm always going to remember that day in December 1949. And he said, "Jean, your life's going to be very different than our life." And I suppose that that chapter that you read when I brought him to on a trip to Europe in 1971 comes from there.
Well, you say, "I hope my best was enough." I mean, your best was extraordinary. Was he a hard man to please?
Well, some of my friends say that my standards are very high. But as you know, Kevin, a career can always be better. But I have to admit, it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, what I particularly enjoyed was your discussion of the 50s, which, of course, you were on that power line with Boom Boom Geoffrion and Rocket Richard, and saying that, you know, when you first came to the Montreal Canadiens, you were in awe of Rocket Richard. Did you ever, in your career, feel his equal?
Well, I never thought of that, honestly, because Maurice was, for us, a French-Canadian, our idol. I remember very clearly Hockey Night in Canada on radio in 1945 when Maurice scored 50 goals in 50 games. And in the book, and I've always thought about it, that Maurice was the one who opened up things for us and gave us the opportunity to play. I have a lot of admiration for Maurice. He fought hard. He was, without being the greatest talker in the room, but we could see the fire out of his eyes. And that's honestly how I feel about it.
But when you have an idol like that, and then you work alongside your idol, I suppose there's a point where you begin to actually feel that he's a colleague. I mean, did that ever happen, or was he always sort of, you know, the Rocket to you?
Well, I remember in 1953 when I signed my first contract, they sat me beside him, and for 7 years, I sat beside him in a room. And there is no doubt that the first moment, and probably for the 7 years, I was very excited about it, because since young boys, our dream here in Quebec is to wear the Canadian uniform. And I suppose that the young boys in Ontario wants to wear the Maple Leaf uniform, and I think it's only natural. And all of a sudden, you find yourself being part of that great team, and especially in the 50s.
Well, and you're right, too, that, I mean, Maurice Richard hated to lose with every fiber of his being. You quote Dick Irvin as saying that, you know, when he lost, he got into a trance. He was so mad at himself, which makes me wonder, how did you lose a game? Were you a good loser, or did you beat yourself over the head?
Well, if you play well and you lose, I think the opponent is allowed to play well. I was upset when we play really bad. And personally, every time I step on the ice, I try to perform, because I realized at a very early age that the fans came sometimes from far away, and maybe once a year, And I have tried every time I step on the ice to perform the best I could.
Would you have a routine when you stepped onto the ice? Was there a certain thing that you did?
No, I'm not one. I know there's many hockey players who are very superstitious, but I'm not one of them.
Interesting. Now, Maurice Richard, as you write, in his 18-year career, made about $500,000 over 18 years. But in a chapter of your book called The Money Game, you mentioned that Patrick Roy, the goalie for the Canadiens now, earns more in 2 months than the Rocket earned in his entire career. Are you saying that hockey players today make enough money?
Well, they're certainly making enough money. When I talk about Patrick Roy earning $4 million, I think at the time that paragraph was written, is that I felt that Patrick was at least 50% of our team. The market for players at that time was at its highest, and Patrick could probably have that from some of the teams too. So $4 million is a lot of money, and every time a goalie or a defenseman or a forward sign a new contract with all kinds of money, it's kind of increase other players.
Well, that happened to you. I mean, didn't Frank Selke say when you signed for something like $100,000, didn't he say we have to open up the vault here? I mean, isn't that something that owners always say?
Matter of fact, they took a picture of that, Mr. Selke and I, when I signed my contract. We used the vault to are in the wicket office here at the Forum.
Right.
It was big money at the time. A family could live on $3,500, $4,000.
But are we in I mean, we're at 31 days in this hockey strike. It's impossible not to mention this.
Yes.
I mean, are you saying then that the players are in the wrong here, that they should just go back to playing hockey?
Well, up to about a month ago, I've always thought that hockey players or an athlete should get the best contract available. But what they're asking now, and don't forget my last 22 years has been part of management, is way out of proportion. Teams are struggling right now. And I hope for the good of both sides that they sit down and realize that we got to save the game. I'm very worried about the game now because those requests are certainly shaking the foundation of this great game.
Well, let's move on to another political question here. I gather the Prime Minister asked you if you wanted to be Governor General. Now, I know that the position means something to you because you wear your Order of Canada that you got from Governor General Michener all the time. There it is.
Right here.
Yeah. Why did you say no?
Well, I retired on August 31st, 1993, after 40 years with the Canadian, 45 years in this game. The way I like to work, and I think it's only normal after 45 years, if you most of the time work 7 days a week, that you'll be a little tired. So I feel that you have to be consistent in your decision. I have to admit that it was one of my hardest decisions to turn down this opportunity to serve as Governor General. And I realized the political climate in this country, and I also realized that maybe my wife and I were the couple to, probably the best couple to do the job at this stage.
Comes with a nice house.
But, you know, and I have another situation. I have one daughter who is 37 years old, and she's a widow. And there's two granddaughters there, 10 and 8. Mm. Yesterday, they spent the day with us. Tonight, I'm going to go out with them. I don't want to replace the father, but there's a situation where I have to be there. And the way I feel, if Elise and I, we had left for Ottawa for 5 years, I had the feeling that I was letting them down, that I was abandoning them, because, you know, the next 5 years would have been a very busy 5 years, not only as Governor General, but don't forget, I have this hockey career besides that.
Well, and you had told your wife, I think, at the very beginning of this journey that the two of you took, that, you know, I'll take care of the outside the house, you take care of inside the house. Now that you're retiring, you're in her territory.
Not yet.
Not yet? No? But I guess what you're telling us is that you really believe it's time to spend some time with your family.
I really think so. And it was, again, very difficult. I wish I could. It would have been a great experience. And so many letters that I received from all across Canada, 100% were in favor. And it was very difficult. I sat and I had dinner with Mr. and Mrs. Chrétien in Ottawa, and our wife. And Mr. Chrétien is not the type of guy who would twist arm. He respected the decision. Yeah. And I was happy about that. And it would have been wonderful to work with him for at least the next 3 years.
Would have been nice to put Governor General on the jersey on the back. Thank you, Mr. Beliveau, for being with us.
Kevin, thank you very much.
Bye-bye.